Hi everybody, Martyn here from Sweet Pea, and I'm here to talk to you today about a little bit of preventative maintenance on your machines. You don't want your machines going wrong at the inopportune time, but a little bit of care and consideration to your machine there makes it work much better, and you actually have more of an enjoyable experience. So as you can imagine, at Sweet Pea we actually run a lot of machines, and we run domestic machines because generally that's what you were using at home. So there's no sense in us looking at a commercial version when what our end product will be is made on a domestic machine. Now, to keep it running nice and tidy, we actually look at a few very simple things. Things like making sure that we're using a thread stand, whether it be part of the machine or whether it be sitting beside your machine, not at the flywheel end, it needs to be sitting in front or back, so as you get a nice thread delivery through the machine. I mean, it says if you don't have a nice thread delivery, it means that you're going to get spots every now and again on your work, which may show bobbin thread, or it may show unevenness and satin stitch. So thread delivery is very important. One of the most important things though when it comes to dealing with changing threads is that you don't just pull the thread out and pull it back through the machine. The most important way of doing this is actually having your thread like so, and then pulling it from the needle so you don't get any rubbish taken up into the tension unit of the machine, because that is what's going to give you the most grief. If you've got fluff in the tension unit of your machine, then it's going to hold those discs open and give you really erratic stitches. We don't want that at all. The other thing is sometimes when our machines are playing up, well, you might get a broken thread and there's nothing here to hold on to pull the thread out of the machine. Sometimes you need to go back up the top here and then just gently unthread it from the top the same way as you would threading it, so as you don't get any, again, rubbish taken up into the tension unit. I mean, the brother machines that we use, we can pull these apart quite happily and actually have a look to see if there's anything in the machine. But I'm very much aware that people in the US, you talk about defaulting your warranty. If you take covers off your machines, you need to check with your dealer what you're allowed to do. Now, the next thing that I need to look at is making sure that our surfaces are clean. When we use tape and washi tape and things like that, we sometimes find that our base gets sticky. And so just a little bit, well, I'm just using an orange power solvent which takes some goo, and we just put a little drop onto a cloth and just take all the stickiness off the machine base. What that makes sure is that the bottom of your hoop doesn't get caught when it's going to and fro, and makes it nice soft surface for it to glide on. Okay, so just a one spot's enough. You don't have to saturate it. Try not to go over your logos or your decals, because sometimes some of these solvents actually take those off, so we don't want to do that. We just want to make sure our surface is nice and smooth, so there's no interruption on the bottom of the hoop. Next thing, make sure that your machine is turned off if you're going to pull this part apart. You don't want it to be connected. You don't want any surprises from the machine. We're lucky that when our covers come off on these machines, they will not do anything. We get a message up on the screen saying that the cover is off and it will not do anything. But what we want to do is we want to look into our machine, take our bobbin out, and our bobbin case comes out as well. And we want to check to see what our bobbin case is doing. We want to make sure that this is nice and clean. I haven't cleaned this for probably about 2 weeks, and I've used it thoroughly, but I do clean my machines quite regularly. Now, I use a little it's a retractable makeup brush. I always have used this because you can get in there, you're not going to damage it, takes all the fluff away. The fluff sticks to the sable brush. And these are picked up for dollars in your local pharmacy or drugstore. Just depends on where you shop. But honestly, you can pick one up for under $5. And you can also then stick it into the race of the machine and pick out any fluff. See, look at the fluff on the end of that there, and it's relatively clean. It just sticks to the brush. I know that the machines come with their own little brush that you actually do this with. I find this easier. because one turn it takes all the edges around the whole area and picks the fluff out. So I'm quite happy with that. Now if you break a needle and you can't find the tip, you do need to check to make sure it is not sitting between the bottom of the bobbin case and the race of the machine, because that's where it generally wants to go. If you can't find it in there, don't panic. If your machine turns quite nicely, if it does a revolution and turns quite nice, the tip's most probably sitting on the floor inside the machine, and that will be picked up by your next service. It's not going to be doing any damage. If you can hear that it is binding or something, the noise is being made by a needle after a needle is broken, then you need to investigate a little bit further. You need to investigate just a little bit further. We can actually undo these screws and take these plates off, etc., and clean well within the machine, which is easy to do. They just come off very, very easily. Not every brand comes off as easy as others. We're lucky this machine actually has a cover that slips on top. Sometimes in the same range of machines there you have to undo further screws. Some brands you just press on the back and the whole thing pops off. So whatever's easiest for you. But this is an embroidery only machine, so it only has a hole and it has no feed dogs. So if you have a gel machine at home, you'll find that you've got more to look at, more to clean, more fluff will go into more areas. So make sure this area just stays nice and clean. Going back to the bobbin case, this is the bobbin case. This is a consumable. It's like a needle. You need to replace them regularly. They're not part of a service. They're not part of being under a warranty. They do get damaged. You find on the back of them you can see sometimes needle holes or the point's gone, or you might have a rough ridge around the outside edge of them. Not all bobbin cases are the same. And you'll find that you'll have to replace them, because if they're rough or they're missing a point, then you will get skipped stitches, and you do not want that. So a bobbin case on hand is very, very handy for those times where you haven't got time to get to the shops. Having a spare bobbin case is just like having another packet of needles. It's really, really important. So for brother machines, we find that the back plate needs to be on first, then the bobbin case goes in so it matches arrow to spot, and then the top cover slips into position. So that's what we look at. There's a sequence. If you put the bobbin case in first and then put this plate on, you will find that you'll get a grief of stitches. You'll go into a bird's nest and not. So check to see whether that sequence is right for your machine. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about oiling or not oiling. Now, if your machine didn't come with oiling instructions, or if it didn't come with an oil bottle, it probably means that your machine does not require oil. These machines, these brother machines, don't require oil. They get lubrication during a service. But my machine at home is a Bernina. It requires a drop of oil every time I use it. So I know that, and we're talked to by our dealers to say, well, listen, you need to do this. You need to feed your machine. The Janome machine that we have in next door, we need to oil 5 spots on that every now and again to keep it lubricated, the arm and also other areas of the machine. It will be in your manual. If you are not sure, ask your dealer. But do not go oiling willy-nilly if you do not know whether your machine requires it, because you will damage it. So a drop of oil for a machine that requires it makes a huge difference. But I would not be oiling a machine that does not ask for it. It tells you in your manual whether you oil machine or not, because it will show you the spots. That's really, really important. The last thing that I really want to talk to you about is needles. Now, we have lots and lots of discussions of needles, and we here at Sweet Pea, we just use embroidery 1175s. That's our basic bog standard go-to needle. If we find we want something a bit heavier for embroidery, say if we're going through multiple layers of PU or cork or etc., and we're getting quite high, we might change to a denim 16/100 if it requires. But on the whole, we just use embroidery needles. Every single person has got their own ideas of what is right. Now, we're not saying that you are wrong. We're just saying this is what we do, and we have great success with what we do. An embroidery needle was invented for embroidery. because it has a different groove in it and a different eye. So I suggest that we actually use embroidery needles because that's what we are doing, even though we are sewing in the hoop. So I hope this has been some help to you. Now, an investment in a little retractable brush or makeup brush or what have you there, so as the bristles spread out, that's a great investment to clean your machine. It's very, very quick. Everyone has their own ideas about how they actually clean their machine. Keeping it clean on a regular basis is really important because it will save you grief. I hear so many people say, oh, my machine doesn't like this, my machine doesn't like that. All I hear is that I need to maintain my machine more. So we try and do our best here at Sweet Pea, but time goes so fast that you find that one day goes to another, goes to a week, and you haven't cleaned your machines. But cleaning your machine regularly will mean that it's less maintenance and less cost from your service tech. Bye for now.